You ready? Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Ready?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Clifton Johnson, and I am the founder of the Empower series. I want to thank you for tuning in today. If you tuned in a few seconds ago and we went dead, that's the joy of a live show. So again, I'm the founder of the Empower series. I want to thank our supporting resources that have helped us brought this show to you. So AE Media Group, much love for all that you do in making us look good. Comerica Bank for your long-term financial support. And for all of you out there who've given their time, their talent, and their financial resources to bring out quality programs. We've been doing this since 2011. I want to thank you and give you much love. So if you want to go to our website and find out more about the Empower series, you can go to www.empowerseries.com. Click on the top left-hand button to find out if you want to donate. If you want to see what's coming up in the month of December and also in 2020, click on the RSVP button. If you want to find out, or if you want to give us some feedback about how we can be even better in delivering valuable content that's going to be important to you, that's going to give you hope, inspiration, education, and also connect you to some resources, please click Take a Survey and give us your feedback. Today, I am excited. I am here talking to my friend Brandon Powell, who is a business consultant. His company name is Lean on Him Consulting. He came to Empower Series back in 2018. We were talking about credit, I think, back at that time. Mm-hmm. And since then, we've been meeting each other periodically. I actually ran out of business cards, so he's designed a business card for me that if you've seen my new business cards, you're thinking, dang, he's good. But he does more than business cards. He's actually a brand consultant, a business consultant. He does design where he's a graphic designer, but he really helps you take a deep dive look at your business, and wherever you are, he will help you take your business to the next level, help you acquire more clients, be more consistent and authentic with your message. I think he can do a much better job in talking about his business than I can, but let me introduce you without any further ado, Brandon Powell. Thank you for coming, man.
Well, thank you again for having me. Once again, I want to give a big shout out to my wife, Adia Powell. Today is her birthday, so happy birthday, babe. Also thankful for one of my business partners that are here today, Mr. Ryan Jacobson with RCJ Social. He's a very good videographer as well, and I'm just thankful to have great people. That's what entrepreneurship is about, is collaboration. We are interdependent, and so, no man is an island to himself, so I'm just thankful to be here. And as you stated, I'm a small business consultant. I'm in the field quite a bit, so I enjoy meeting new people. I learn a lot. I would say I'm a student of the process with my clients, and they teach me how to teach them. Yeah. And so it's been a fun journey for a few years now.
Well, Adia, I want to say thank you. I know I'm between you and the birthday party, so I'm going to be real quick with this. But as a financial advisor, I would tell people all the time that when I'm giving advice, I'm giving really two people advice. The person I'm speaking to, but then me and applying it as well.
Right.
So we were just talking about earlier how, the learning is continuous.
That's right.
You go to school, you learn a lot, you can sit in class and learn, but really the real world teaches you a lot.
That's right.
And so when you look at the Empower series, our pillars are hope that whatever you can imagine can come true. Right. We want to inspire you to take action. That's right. You should be acting all the time. Learning from your action, which is the education piece.
Right.
And what you do is when you find out that what you're doing is not working, then you just reshift it and keep doing it. And then there's connections all around you.
That's true. That reminds me of a principle that I discovered and then I ended up teaching inadvertently, which is reflect, reassess, and execute. That simply means that, every experience we have, if we're running at such a fast pace, one of the things that we miss out on is reflection. A project comes, you're just excited you got it done. Now you're moving on to the next one. Well, there's a lot of stuff that happened in that experience that you don't automatically gain unless you take time to reflect. And so be present in the moment and reflect on it. Then reassess what worked, and then the better question is, why did it work? We like to say, okay, what didn't work and why didn't it work? And we can kind of be a little critical of ourselves sometimes, but we also want to say, hey, what worked and why did it work? And so from there, then you execute, like you said, but you've got to be able to gather all that information. And so that's what's been the huge benefit to me in the field, is that in my personal life, in my business, professional life, I try to practice that principle as much as I can.
Man, you just spoke to me a little bit because I'm always running. You know, I had some stuff going on before I came here. And then, you know, I'm here. After we do this, I got to get back, and I just hope I can go to bed tonight.
Right. I hope you can.
But the key is truly reflection, dude. It really is. And when you talk about one of my mentors told me the importance of journaling.
Yeah.
You know, he carried a book with him all the time because so much was going on, and he noted on it. But if you just keep going and you never stop and take some time to reflect, to look at, okay, what just happened? What can you learn from that? That's like the deepest learning.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, you know, to give credit, I learned that principle from one of the books that I was reading, and I try to read quite a bit. You know, it's not just to read just to gain a lot of knowledge, but it's just to be better. You know, most of us have had that moment where we've learned something and we're like, whoa, that's amazing. And you're like, what else am I missing?
Yeah.
And so you create that hunger for continuous learning and improvement. And so, you know, I've just been fortunate to come across some good resources and good mentors that have constantly given me good insight. And I try to just return that back to the market and to my clients in exchange.
Yeah, that's another thing you talked about is reading. So Dr. Dennis Kimbrough has spoken at our Empower series, and he interviews all these successful entrepreneurs.
Right.
And he said one of them just said, you know, he was asking, what's the key to your success? He said, well, I just outread I just outread the next guy. Right?
Wow.
So reading is critically important.
That's right.
One of the things we were talking about, too, is you've been in business for 13, 14 years or so. And so now when you first started, you were doing just basic, you know, orders for maybe nonprofit organizations or just getting your word out there. Mm-hmm. But now that you've been doing this for 13 years, you definitely have a target market, and you help businesses who have the resources to really pay for your services.
Right.
And I wanted to go back and say, in the very beginning, what we do with the Empower series, we want to connect people with the resources to help them take their next step when they don't necessarily have the money to do it.
Right.
So whether it's SCORE, whether it's Small Business Development Center, there's a lot of resources out there, like the FDIC has a free entrepreneurial model as well. But if you're meeting with somebody who has an idea, they can really value from working with you, because working with an individual consultant really tailors something for their particular business, and they can exponentially get to the point very fast.
Right.
But if they don't have money to pay for you, what would be your advice to that person who has an idea and they just don't know where to go?
You know, I would say that there's a lot more entrepreneurs out there than most of us realize. A lot of them are at that what I call the just launch stage, where they're at the 0 to 6 months, meaning they're at the stage where they haven't quite launched their business yet, but they're either overly passionate and dreaming about that idea of doing it and pursuing it, or they're frustrated at their current job, and it's like, you know what? I think I'm ready to go ahead and move forward.
All I need is a reason. All I need is just give me a little bit of push.
Right. Don't let you actually come up with a business name. You're like, you know what? I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice. Right. You don't even know if you're going to have a website or cards or anything. You just like, I'm ready to go. But that there's a lot of fuel in that. You know, I wish I could go back to those days. Even though I didn't have as much knowledge, you know, the zeal and the passion and the pure motivation is just no comparison. And so my advice would be just to take inventory of your skills. Mm-hmm. You know, think about who you are, not just about what you're planning to pursue. If you're about to become, you know, a beautician or a barber or a mechanic or whatever the case may be, there's other things that you have in your previous work experience that you want to take inventory of. Why? Because you may not think it connects to it, but in a way it could. If you work different jobs, there may be some principles and traits and skills that you can translate very well to the market. And so by the time you meet a consultant like myself, I'm going to be interested in that, because if I meet 10 people that own a restaurant, I can guarantee you there are going to be 10 different goals and 10 different plans that we put in place. Why? Because they're 10 different people, 10 different backgrounds, 10 different years of experience. And so I want to learn those things, because that's what's going to be what they call your unique selling proposition. Mm-hmm. And so it's something that you can gain whether you're in business for a long time or you're just getting started. And sometimes you don't have to worry about having the money right now. In fact, it makes you more thorough, because now every dollar counts, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes if you have, just, a lot of revenue or capital just available, sometimes you make decisions too hastily, because you won't feel that risk of spending all those funds too soon, and it makes you a little bit more careful.
Yeah, yeah. So if someone's looking for some advice or a business consultant, how would they go about finding it or finding one that matches their needs? What would you recommend that they do?
Well, to be honest, I think that question, I'm in a little bit more of a unique situation because I've challenged myself to be a little bit more than just the consultant. So, for example, clients that come to me, sometimes you don't know what you need, until you've been shown it. So what I try to do is, which is one of the things that we were going to talk about, which is I call a transaction versus treatment process.
Okay.
What happens is if you're just getting started and you say, well, I want to go in business, but I don't know what to do. That doesn't always mean that you think, hey, I should reach out to a consultant. Most entrepreneurs, they don't think like that. They say, well, let me call my cousin. Let me call my friend.
Let me call somebody who don't know, right?
Right. And what's funny about it is because we're relationship driven.
Yeah.
So you could Google it, you could do YouTube, but we're much more likely to reach out to a family member or a friend because that's our comfort zone. So we don't automatically think about consulting. And so how do I happen to serve a market that doesn't know they need that service?
That's true.
So the way it usually happens for me is they say, well, hey, I heard you do business cards. Well, when we meet, we don't even talk about business cards. We get to it eventually, but I want to get to know you as a person. What actually? So inadvertently, I begin to consult, and what I found is that clients appreciate that because now I'm tapping into what we call the unconscious needs. You weren't consciously aware that that's something you were interested in or needed, but you're probably more grateful that I didn't just do a transaction and here's your cards and have a good day.
Yeah.
And so that's a symptom. You need business cards, you need a logo. That's just a symptom. And so the treatment process is, you're actually taking a more holistic approach. And so I liken it to if you went to the doctor's office and you sneezed, well, that's a symptom. Well, if the doctor just saw you sneeze and say, you know what, let me write you a prescription for pneumonia. I mean, you're going to look at that doctor pretty strange. Why? Because he didn't really do much of an examination, and I don't think he deserves my copay. Mm-hmm. And so we do that all the time in business, though. We just hear a symptom. Oh, you need flyers? All right, here you go.
This is what I do. Right. Then I qualify you. Okay, can you pay for my services? Right, are you the kind of client I want?
Right. And so for me, as a consultant, I'm gonna offer you that information because I care, not because I'm a consultant and you need to pay me my hourly rate. It's more of a treatment-based approach. And so clients so far, they've seemed to appreciate that more.
Okay. And I like that because I know a lot of times people look at when you meet somebody, especially from networking, do you just start right at going at business or do you go at really building a relationship and getting to know someone?
Right.
And then through that process of getting to know them, then you can determine, okay, how can I really be of value and vice versa? So it goes back again. I'm not sure if you really answered my question, though. So let me put me in this situation. Let's say I have no money, which is not too far from the truth, right? But I have no money, but obviously you've looked at my website before. You know I need some services. But I can't pay for it. What would you do? I mean, how would you, so I'm not even conscious that I need some branding when it comes to my business. You know that I can't afford your services. So whether I know it or not, what would you advise me to? And I'm doing this really to help our audience because they might be in the same position.
Yeah. And
I want to make sure in this particular show, they're getting something of value by spending their most precious resource, which is their time.
Right.
So what would they do?
That's a great point. I'm glad you're driving that in because I do want to give some clarification. So I do run across that quite often. Okay. I'm not the cheapest. I do believe in I am a premium service, but I usually do what I call first cousin discounts. Those are the discounts where you just don't tell anybody that I've done this for you.
You're the first cousin club, right?
Right. We'll adopt you later. We'll get the paperwork done later. And so, again, it's because I'm a small business consultant. So if you came to me and say, you know what, Brandon, I heard you say you charge $450 an hour, which somebody joked at one time when I told them that. They said, oh, $4.50? No, move the decimal. Move it over. But when I sit down with a client, I say, you know what, I really like what you're doing. I think you're serious. Let me invest into you. Mm-hmm. And so I found that when I sit down with those clients, I'll provide a complimentary session. I'll waive it. And because you've already expressed to me that you're serious, but you don't have the financial capacity. And we'll gain more in that hour than it would if I had just tried to figure out a way to make you pay me for my service. Yeah. Because if I sit down with you complimentary, who knows, you may gain enough insight and value that you can start the process and I can point you in the direction of other resources that may be a little bit more cost effective, but more than likely we will begin a journey together. And so I try to think like that with anybody I meet, 5 to 10 years down the line, versus again the transaction where, hey, you can't afford it. Of course you can afford it. You can't afford it. Go borrow some money. Well, for me, if as long as I think you're serious about what you're trying to do, I'll invest an hour with you. Yeah. And I know that we'll be able to gain some insight and probably save you some headaches and, help you avoid bumping your head on some things. And so that's what I would do, is say, hey, you know what, let's set aside an hour by phone or in person. And I think that there's some things that we'll be able to gain just to get things started and give more clarity as a first step.
Yeah, there's a book called The Go-Giver, and it talks about how you build a circle of influence. And you build a circle of influence not so much by focusing on what you get, but how much you give. And it's a rarity when people give without any type of thought of a return. Right. You've always hear, win-win situation. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. Right. But as a financial advisor, I would meet with people who were like broke. They couldn't invest, they couldn't buy life insurance. They just had to get out of debt and save an emergency fund. And so I felt that I spent the same time with them that I spent with wealthy clients initially. And I gave them advice, and they had to go act on it. I didn't really expect anything back from them. But what I did find is that periodically they would then refer somebody to me that I could work with. Right. And I'm sure that works the same with you, where you just pour into somebody and then unexpectedly they may know of somebody that can really use your services and pay for it, and then you're referred.
That's such a great point. I would say even to expand it even further, even if you did work with a lot of clients that have the capacity, I think it's just a smart decision to build your business philosophy off of service. Mm-hmm. And there's a word that I use, hospitality, going above and beyond to do the unnecessary. It's not necessary for me to meet with a few clients, hour and a half at a time and do it complimentary. But I'm showing hospitality and serving, and you can actually build a business model based on that. You can say, okay, I'm creating a high quality experience for all of these clients, mind you, without asking them for anything. And so I have that happen quite often where we'll service a client, whatever they can afford, and inadvertently I'll get a text, email, or a call from someone referring me, say, hey, I want to put you in touch with so-and-so. I heard someone-so told me to get in contact with you. Well, guess what? Over the years, I actually measured the data, and I said, okay, 45 to 60% of my business comes from word of mouth and referrals. But I didn't stop there. I said, you know what? Is this unique to me, or can I teach this to others? I said, okay, I can actually duplicate this. So now I'm not just celebrating the fact that I can get word of mouth and referrals. I actually am more excited because now I can say, you know what? Let me show you how in your own business you can build a model that's based on service and hospitality, and then you can monitor and say, okay, where is most of my business coming from? Because if you're getting word of mouth and referrals, that means that people are having a pleasant experience with you, right? And they respect what you're offering to them.
So you were able to find that your business was a referral-based business, and it was transferable. So you taught that to your clients.
Yeah, my wife joked about it everything I do, I'm always trying to teach somebody something. And so she jokes. In fact, when I enrolled back in school for my graphic design certification, she said, Brandon, I already know what you're gonna do. I said, what? What you talking about? My wife is my unofficial life coach, whether I ask for it or not. I try to listen. I'm a little stubborn sometimes, but she's usually right. But she said, you know what, Brandon, you're gonna go to that school, you're gonna learn that information, and you're gonna end up wanting to teach somebody. I said, I don't know about all that. Well,
is that one of your offerings?
That's exactly what I do now. I actually train graphic designers as a result, but it's a passion of mine because I know what it feels like to not know. Mm-hmm. What's even worse is to not know you need to know it, and not even know to ask. It's just a terrible feeling, and so I'm just it's more of a huge interest to do that for others.
So speaking about that, so not knowing what to ask, so given your experience of 14 years in working with businesses, what would you say is another valuable thing that most business owners don't know, but they really need? And let's talk about that and kind of go a little bit deeper with that now.
You know, here's a trend that I'm noticing in the market these days. I'm noticing that a lot of people are starting businesses, and they're so interested in making money that they become a jack of all trades. They just say, you know what, I've got to make sure that I can bring in money, and so they're doing this and they're doing that, and before you know it, they're doing like 8 different things in different industries, and so. Or they're doing just a lot of things in general. And so what I try to inform them is that instead of you burning yourself out, because that's what's happening, you have these highly skilled, highly gifted entrepreneurs who are questioning if they deserve to be in business. Of course you do. It's just a matter of reallocating your time and your resources and optimizing it. And so there's a principle I teach called find the door, and then let people see the house. And the door is basically, if you offer, in our case, we offer over 30 different products and services. Okay. But you probably didn't know that until I literally just said that, because
it's always new. It's like, oh, you do that too? Yeah.
Right. Because I don't just, you know, if you ever, for those that network, you know, you hate when you go out and you ask somebody, hey, so what do you do? And then they take 2 hours to explain to you everything they've accomplished in 3rd grade. And you're like, man, I really didn't want to know all that.
Right.
And so what do? The door is find out, what are the things that you do well, meaning that you like to do, and what actually is productive for you in your business, and make that the main things that you promote and you talk about. And if a person gets a chance to actually sit down with you and meet with you and learn a little bit more, then you can actually show them the house, metaphorically speaking. But if you're always spending time in the market, which I see very commonly, because what happens is our ego gets in the way. We don't want people to pigeonhole us. I'm okay at this point. It used to bother me, but when people say, oh, I heard you do T-shirts, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I do. I don't let that define me. Now, if you call me and we talk about your T-shirt project, you're going to find out within the first 5 minutes. That's not all I do. Okay. But it's not because I'm going to bash you over the head with information. It's just my process interweaves in the other things that I do. And so you've just got to be a little bit more patient and not worry about if I've had clients who have like 5 different sets of business cards for all of the different businesses. Yeah. And so they won't let people leave. Like they'll say, hey, I got one more card for you.
Looking for a house? Looking for credit?
Right.
What are you looking
for? What they do is they look at a person in the eye, and what they're trying to do is figure out if the next thing I give you is going to be the thing that's actually going to sell you. Yeah. And what they don't realize, you're diluting the experience for the client. You're ruining the experience for the client. So you just got to be very careful of that.
Okay. Well, here's what I was going to ask you. How do you teach that?
That's a great question. In my experience, I found the best ways that I've been able to experience it is through workshops and through one-on-one sessions. See, for me, the consulting sessions that I do, I treat it very, very much the same as if it was a class, and so I want to make sure that I'm causing learning for the client. And so we do mastermind sessions, which is a really, really good learning environment. We do those every month, and really those are really low threshold events where it's like only $5 or $10 to actually come. Why? Because I know some small businesses, they want to gain some good information, but they don't want to pay the normal rate, which is $150. So we lower it, and so it creates an environment where you can learn. And from my experience, clients usually leave my sessions or those mastermind sessions and things of that nature, and they say, you know what, there's a lot of things that I wasn't aware of, and I'm interested in learning some more. And so again, these are the clients that I deal with all the time. And you know what's funny is that I'll run across clients who are doing very well, because this is not just limited to people who are just starting out. Right. Sometimes you can be working very hard and doing well in your business, but there's a huge deficiency and you didn't know it. Mm-hmm. And so I have that happen all the time where I'll have clients, I'll start talking to them about branding and then showing them examples, and then they're afraid to show me their branding material. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm not the kind of person that's just going to be, super critical of your branding. I say, hey, who are you asking when you ask me to look at your stuff? Are you asking Brandon? Yeah. Or are you asking the consultant? Because if you had just asking Brandon, I'm saying, girl, oh, that look good. You be just fine.
Right. Because
I don't want to be critical of what you have. But as a consultant, now you're giving me permission to give you some feedback professionally. And so the learning experience for me, it's going to happen. If we come in contact, we're gonna create that learning experience for the client. It's too important to me.
Okay. So I'm still thinking, when you have somebody who has an idea, because I'm about to work with a chamber next year in developing a curriculum for entrepreneurs who just have an idea. They haven't started their business, or maybe they started their business, but they haven't really formalized it yet. And it goes back to, people really don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they need. And so when someone comes to you, how do you really assess and help them? And I'm still trying to get to the point to where most people, when they start a business, they just dive in and they start doing the work. But they don't really sit back and look at, what is the business? What are the systems that needs to be in place to make sure this system and this business runs without me? As opposed to me just jumping from a job and then I got another job of trying to, like I'm like a hamster wheel, I'm just doing everything. So how do you really engage or on-take a client?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Within about 10 minutes, I already understand where a client is. I mean, after I talk to you for 10 minutes, I understand what you're deficient in. I understand what processes you need to put in place, and I understand probably where you may be allocating some funds or time in the wrong place. Mm-hmm. How you translate that to a client, that's what takes time. Some clients, they need that education. Some of them want it all at once and say, look, just give it to me and I'll go ahead and figure it out myself. For me as an educator, we actually do 90-day programs where we'll actually do a business coaching suite, what we call it, where we'll take the time out based on where you are. So if I talk to 10 different businesses that go through that program, they're not going to go through the exact same process, because some of them are at the early stage, some of them at the middle stage, and some are very seasoned. They just hit a wall. Mm-hmm. And so we customize it based on their deficiencies. Well, how do I figure that out? Well, I send them a very comprehensive questionnaire that develops a business profile. So I know exactly what it's equivalent to is you go into the doctor, using that analogy again, and instead of me jumping at the symptom, I'm actually doing a full assessment. So if you're hurting on your left shoulder, no, you're hurting on your left shoulder in this particular spot right here, and this centimeter and the millimeter. So how does that help me? That helps me be more accurate in serving versus saying, hey, I'm hurting. Well, and I start working on your left knee, and I'm like, well, thank you, but that's not really where I'm hurting. And so as a business, we do that to each other all the time. We say, well, I just need this. Well, you don't know that you need more than that, but I'm not taking the time out to ask either. And so
do you help people write a business plan?
Yeah, we do that.
And do you help people get funding?
Yeah.
And from what sources do you normally help people get funding from?
So we have traditional sources and non-traditional. One of the things about our company is that we structured ourselves for those that are not aware, I'll just say it, we structured ourselves like a virtual chamber of commerce. And all that means is that we put more resources in place than the normal business. So I may ask you, hey, do you have a commercial bank account? And the client's like, why is he asking me that? He's a graphic designer. Like, get my business cards done, man. Why are you asking me that? Well, the reason I'm asking you that is because I've already spent years of working a relationship with a bank, and I actually will call the branch manager of one of the banks that I'm partnered with, and I'll arrange a private orientation.
Okay.
So in so many ways, and we're working on your business plan, for example, we'll end up creating the business plan and working with the bank manager and the branch manager directly to make sure that we don't go through as much red tape. Now, you still have to get everything right, but we create that process much more seamlessly. And then I have other strategic partners for non-traditional means. But, again, you still got to meet the criteria. Right. I happen to know the criteria. Mm-hmm. I can give it to you up front, almost kind of like giving you the answers to the test. And so we work really hard to make sure that if that is your need, I tell people all the time, we either do it or we have strategic partners that service those needs. Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me ask you another question then. Again, I'm trying to see if we have any live questions, but here's the question I've got for you. What's another nugget where business owners don't know that they don't know that you found in your 13 years that would be valuable to share with our audience?
Man, I'm gonna just share the concept, and I'll explain it. It's called, and I teach this in my workshop. I call it the unknown discount is not a discount.
Okay.
So what this is and small businesses do this all the time, because we go into the market and we're just eager to get business, and we're just so thankful, and we should be. But the market, we can be taken advantage of, and we can take advantage of the market. And so, there's a dance. And so sometimes we neither side wants to get the short end of the stick. Mm-hmm. And so the unknown discount is not a discount. What that means is, if you start working with a client, you know that you normally charge $250 for this particular service or product. But for that client, you want the business. And so what you do is you say, hey, client, hey, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to charge you only $150. So you start working with the client, you close the deal, you're excited. He's like, man, I'm in business now. All right, great. So you do another project, and you do another project, and you still keep charging that same rate. Mind you, you never really you never clearly articulated what your normal retail price is. And even if you did, that doesn't mean the client remembers that, because you didn't put it in writing. And you didn't put it in writing often, because every time you do that project, you should make sure to have it in writing. Hey, this is the normal retail price. So here's what's going to happen, and what I've seen happen. You get around to that third or fourth project where you're offering this discount that they don't know about it and you haven't clarified. So here's what they're going to do. They say, hey, Brandon, I've been giving you all this business, right? I need you to look out for me this time and give me a discount. And you're going to be furious inside. You're like, what? I've been giving you a discount. Well, no, you haven't, because it's unknown. And so I actually had a client that I met, and I shared that and a few other principles. And so she went out and tested it, and she realized she ended up getting like a 30% raise in a contract just by implementing, these principles. I've tested them quite a bit. So that is one of the most common things, is that we're eager to get business, but we don't clarify. And what you do is you're giving the market permission to take advantage of you.
So that will show up as a speaker. A lot of times it's easy to get free speaking gigs. But then if you go out and speak for free, but you don't provide an invoice saying that my normal speaking rate is $1,500, $5,000, whatever, they're just thinking, oh, okay, your price is free. You give me a hookup, right? but even if your speaking rate is $5,000 and you're speaking for $1,500, you should still provide an invoice saying that my normal speaking fee is $5,000, but I'm discounted because you're my first cousin, right?
Right. That's right.
All right.
And you just even if you never intend to actually charge that particular person for whatever reason, it just creates a healthier level of respect for the relationship.
Okay. Well, that's a good value. I think that's speaking to some people, right? So what else you got? I'm trying to get as much nuggets out from you as possible before you got to go. Take care of
I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you, Clifton. I bump my head a lot. So all these things that I bump my head on, and I've had a chance to recover from. I mean, I've had a chance to archive quite a bit. I've got probably about 24 months worth of material. And I tell my clients all the time when I get excited in a meeting, I say, look at you got me giving away my good stuff now. So that's what I'm going to tell you.
I'm trying to do right now.
You got me giving away my good stuff. I would tell you this. Another common thing that I run across is in the market is understanding, I call it the rules of navigating the market. Do we understand the rules of navigating the market? And what that means is we assume that if our product is if we have the bet, we're highly skilled, and if we offer the product at the cheapest and the fastest rate, that we're going to do well in business. Now, you may do okay in business. You may get along for a little while, but there's a if I were to put it in percentages, I call it you have to have what I call 80% relationship and 20% skill set. That's what the market cares about. In other words, they don't really care how good you are at what you do if you don't know how to treat people. Okay, I've had many times where clients have come to me and they've had a pre-existing logo done, and most times it's usually done wrong. But on occasion, if it's done right, I'll tell you. I say, man, this actually looks good. And I've asked people, like, what made you seek other alternatives? This actually looks good. And you know what they told me? They said, Brandon, they did good work, but I didn't like how they treated me. Okay, that we all know that that's how we are. I mean, we really want someone that's skilled, but we want to make sure you're not just treating us like a number. And so, if you're going into the market, really amp up on the skills and be proficient and be cheap and have these sales and all that good stuff and have great flyers, but you've got to value how you treat those clients from the beginning. It's not like, hey, if you pay me, I treat you right. Well, treat them in a high quality way from the beginning, even if they don't become your client. I can't tell you how many meetings I've had, what I call business to business, B2B, where they end up becoming a client, but I met with them with no intention for that. We just had good conversation, and I was interested in getting to know them, and they got to know me, and they realized, hey, there's some potential things that we can work on, but hey, I need you to take a look at this for me. And so that only comes when you value relationship. And so people switch it. They say, well, if I'm highly skilled, you've got to give me business. Nope. That person will deny using your services, go to someone else and pay them more. Mm-hmm. They will, because the rules of the market is we value relationship more than just the skill set.
So it's like you got to be aware of the experience that you're giving people and working with you, right? Because at the end of the day, you can have all the answers, the best product, like you said, but if they I don't really care for you, they're not listening. They're not going to do business with you. They're not going to come back.
I'll give you a practical example because that kind of sounded a little abstract. So we all, if you've been in business for 6 months, 6 days, or 6 years, you probably got an email or a response from a client that you didn't like. Well, guess what? You're in business for yourself. You're a professional. We've got a responsibility to maintain our composure. Why? Because we're asking for an exchange. We're asking for revenue, funds, cash from that client in exchange for the service. Now, I'm not saying that clients should just walk all over you, but our job as a professional is to respond to that email or that phone call or that text with good business etiquette as best as you can, because I can guarantee you they're going to, I've had more clients who I feel I've gained business from because they thought that I would have acted unprofessionally, but because I went above and beyond to still be professional, some of them, you could kind of tell they were surprised. It's like, or they'll tell me, no, Brandon, I know I'm difficult. And I said, no, you're not difficult. But then in my mind, I'm like, yeah, you are difficult. But I'm being a professional, and they respect it. So that's what I mean by you've got to understand how to treat people.
Yeah, well, that's good, man, because I'm thinking about even with me as a nonprofit. And Edward tells me this all the time, to where when people are coming in to my workshops, what's their first experience? Are they being greeted, well? Are we set up right? And I think sometimes we don't really look at that. Another speaker I have who spoke about, his name was Calvin Golden. I think you may know Calvin.
Yeah,
Golden,
I mean,
right?
I think I've seen him on there.
Yeah, he just talked about you really got to step back and look at, okay, what are you providing your customers? And a lot of times you think we're providing them this product or this service, but in reality, we're providing them with an experience. Yeah. And that experience needs to be a high quality experience, because I think he was talking about Chick-fil-A, this whole thing about the chicken sandwich, right? like, I don't care what it is. It's a chicken sandwich. Like the original chicken sandwich is a piece of fried chicken and a bread, right? It's like,
right.
But when you look at the customer service that's provided, people who walk into Chick-fil-A, they get good service.
Yep.
And
here's something interesting that I've learned through reading about Chick-fil-A and Starbucks. They spend a lot more money up front on their training. Uh-huh. See, they're not in the coffee and chicken business. They're in the people business. Mm. That's what they are. And really, if you're in business, I don't care if you offer a product or service, you're in the people business first. And so I've learned over the years that Starbucks, they do a good job of training their staff and employees to develop healthy life skills. That's what they've done. Mm-hmm. That's why if you just go to Chick-fil-A and Starbucks and if another business just tries to copy the verbiage that they say, it won't last long, because somebody's gonna get on their nerves and they're gonna let that
revert
slide.
Back to themselves, right?
Look, you're not gonna talk to me like that. Right. But they spend a whole lot more money and resources in the training process as if it was a college, and so that's that's really the untold secret about Chick-fil-A and Starbucks is they spend a lot more time in training, and so their workforce is much more prepared to handle those adverse moments than normal.
Okay. So tell me, so access to resources. How do people get in touch with you?
So you can email me. Well, actually, if you want to just give me a shout on LinkedIn, I'll give out my contact information as well. You can just shoot me a text. If you are listening to this podcast or you eventually end up running across it on YouTube, you can send me a text message at 214-532-9972. And if you put in the text message, mention that you listen to the Empower Series podcast, I'll set up an actual discounted 1-hour strategy session with you. Normally, I charge $4.50 an hour. But for you, I'll do it for $25. That's that first cousin discount. Just don't tell nobody. But you gotta put in that text message. Now I'm gonna have people like 8 months from now. Hey.
You gotta honor it, right?
Yeah,
like
I'll
it's permanent.
honor it. Yeah, $25, and it won't expire. But it's worth it more to me to spend time with serious business owners than anything. But also, I'm on LinkedIn. Quick thing about LinkedIn, I've fallen in love with LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, I encourage you, get on there, update that profile. Most people that I meet nowadays, they're not on it. I wasn't on it, but I'll tell you now, 7 months ago, I started off with like 800 connections. I mean, it wasn't really a lot to me. I really didn't know the difference because it was just like, hey, I'm on it because everybody else is on it.
Right.
But I realized that it's powerful, and I learned about it, got some mentors and some training on it. And 7 months later, now we're almost at 10,000 connections.
Wow, man.
So I don't tell you that to impress you. I tell you because now I'm interested. Like my wife says, I've learned it. Now I want to teach it.
Now you want to teach it, right?
Yeah. So she already knows.
So is that already a product? Is that an offering? Is it something you give your clients now as part of the consulting
we have.
Right?
So there's 3 things we do in our company. We offer business coaching, as I kind of alluded to, and then we have our branding and marketing materials that we provide, like business card logos and stuff like that. But then we also do what we call the social media management program. That's a 90-day program where we'll focus on your social media, your a lot of different things that we include into that. And one thing I didn't mention is that because we're in the people empowerment business, we recently launched our own business magazine called The Workshop Appetizer. January of this year is when we launched, and so we're not in the magazine business. We're in the people empowerment business, and so all of our articles are featuring our clients so that the world and the market can get to know them, as opposed to just having a lot of ads floating through the magazine.
Okay. So really, when you look at that magazine, it's going to be something that you value added for your customers, and their profile will be in there. So that's another way of publishing or getting their business out there. It's like a directory almost. Right?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, and the things that we want people to experience is that whether you're about to give up on your business or you think about what should I do, these articles, I tell the clients who are submitting articles, I said, look, we want them to feel, and the readers to feel inspired, encouraged, and enlightened as a result. We don't want them just hit over the head with a lot of buy this today specials. I've seen enough of those. Our magazine is strictly focused on educating, and once they get done, you say, you know what? I was about to give up on my business, but I saw this person's story, and it inspired me to try it out. Or I found a resource or a connection that can probably help me move on another day.
Yeah. So what do you? So let's talk about that, because a lot of times when I run across certain business owners, and everything that they provide, they are not providing unless you're paying for it. They feel like there's nothing's free. So if you're doing a presentation, those go, don't take any pictures, right? Because these slides, I'll have them available for sale.
Really?
Right?
I haven't seen that.
Or sometimes, nowadays with live, you're doing a presentation, it's already being recorded and put out there free.
Right.
But some people are thinking, don't record my presentation, don't put it out there for free, because for some reason, if I'm out there and people don't have to pay, and people are not paying for it, they'll get it free, they're not going to want to hire me.
Right.
What do you think about that mindset?
There's a lot I could say about that, but here's what I would say as an abbreviated version. I think that at the core of it, that's a philosophy issue. I mean, beyond what you should say different and do different, it's a philosophy challenge. Meaning, I view one of the books I read, it said you should strive to achieve success at the service of others as opposed to at the expense of others. Mm-hmm. And so that's my philosophy. And so I don't know what all exactly I'm going to do or say when I'm talking to a client, but I know that my philosophy is about service and empowering you. And so in the moment, and I just have a feeling, I say, you know what? What's your capacity? What do you want to do? And then I just make a decision based on my philosophy that, you know what, it's worth more to me to see you in 5 years. We are celebrating your success on this journey together, as opposed to whether or not you're going to pay me next week. Okay. And so that, if your philosophy is focused on that, then it'll kind of leak out in some of the random decisions that you make. And then another thing is you got to be fully aware of what you offer. So the things that I'm talking about right now, this information is one of, if I had to number them in terms of concept, it's one of like 85 concepts. Well, how much information you gain a day shouldn't make or break whether or not my business is still valuable. And so if you have information, then you need to be able to give enough to be able to generate some level of credibility. The market's just not going to come to you just because you have a nice photo. Just because, right? I mean, you got to give something. There's tons of people trying to offer the same services. So when people meet people, they're wondering a few things in their mind. Do I like you? Do I trust you? And do I want to work with you?
You got to be like those food court people that stand out there with little pieces of samples on the toothpick. Yeah. You got to be willing to give some stuff away.
Yeah, because I'm going to get about 5 of those.
Right.
So you got to be prepared. But you've got to know that your samples should be samples and not whole entrees. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that's more of a strategy decision. But, it's at the core, it's a philosophy thing. And I meet a lot of people, I call it givers versus takers. Yeah. And so you can change your mindset, but sometimes, you just got to become aware of it.
Have you read the book, The Go-Giver?
I have not. In fact, you've recommended it to me. I need to get that book.
Yeah. I think it will be a good book. I think you'll relate to it. So where are you from?
From Dallas.
From Dallas. Okay. Dallas, what high school did you go to?
So I used a little street cred. I went to South Oak Cliff for a little bit. That's for my street cred people. But then also I ended up graduating from Grand Prairie. So we lived in Oak Cliff for about a year, and I went to middle school at Powell Story. Then I went to SOC for part of the freshman year, and then I moved to Grand Prairie and graduated from Grand Prairie, not South Grand Prairie, but Grand Prairie. Mm-hmm. And when I was in high school and come out of high school, I didn't have any interest in anything. I didn't really have much direction. But thankfully, through some good resources and people around me, they kind of guided me to help me to become the person I am. And of course, right now, being married to my wife, she's a great help and a great resource. And going on 9 years now, and so I created a lot of the things that she does inadvertently to help me to be able to just focus and work and do the things that I do.
So where did you meet her?
At church.
Okay.
We're pretty. In fact, she had graduated college from Texas A&M, mm-hmm. and she came and visited the church that I had grew up at, and so. One look and it was over. Now I'm kidding.
No, you're not.
No. We developed a friendship, and
that was just the beginning. Like you looked at her and you saw the future, right?
Right. The silhouette, right. But I mean, it was and I've learned a lot. I'm not the same man and same person that I was 5-10 years ago, but through this journey, it's really about holistic development. It's mm-hmm. really what I would say, and so she's played a part in that. My friends, family, and associates, and my clients even have played a part in that, and so I'm very, very thankful.
Now, is she a part of your business, or does she have her own career?
So my wife works for the state. Okay. She grew up in a tradition where everybody worked for the state or the government, and so mm-hmm. I come from a family background, entrepreneurial. That's a kind way of saying we were all over the place.
Right. So she got the benefits and.
Yeah, I mean, the way she interprets life and business or vocation is different from how I did. But I understand and respect it. In fact, it helps me sometimes to just get her perspective from a different perspective But usually, especially at this point, she understands exactly what I do. She understands that I'm very, very passionate about it, and she's very supportive. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better circumstance without her having to want to be at every meeting that I'm at. You know, she don't need to necessarily come to that. She don't care about Brandon the consultant. She want Brandon
Right,
the
right.
husband.
Well, one of the things that was talked about is relationships. An entrepreneur is a different kind of person dealing with. They're not every 8 to 5. You know,
Yeah, I don't even know what that
consistent
is.
paycheck. So finding someone that's really okay with that, or that you can compliment with, is very important.
It is.
And you weren't an entrepreneur when you first got married, right?
Oh yeah, I was.
You were?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was. Now I was working my business part time, but I had I've always been an entrepreneur.
Yes,
spirit.
you've been 14 years and you've been married for 9, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely. And you're right. You know, she's adapted to my routine. You know, it was challenging because at this point, you know, I have a routine that's a little unusual. You know, my day starts at 4 every morning, and she's a light sleeper. So I'm frustrating her because
you got to make that work, right? Like, okay.
yeah. so you know, thankfully, she's very understanding and allows me to do what I do. And so when I start my day, you know, by the time 9 o'clock hits, I'm probably done more than a normal full day. But I enjoyed it. I wake up; it's my passion. I'm just interested in just, and I'm not doing all work when I wake up. I'm doing things to help keep my mind stable. You know, so I'm doing devotionals and just reflecting and meditating and just preparing and, you know, looking on the compass of my journey and making sure I'm on track and what do I need to adjust. And you need that quiet time. And so it doesn't have to be in the morning for everybody, but you just pick that time, 45 minutes to an hour, where you can just sit down and just, I carry a notebook everywhere I go. And so I'm writing down ideas. And though that notebook may look torn up and raggedy because I've, you know, done all kind of things with it, but it's got a huge amount of the ideas that I've implemented that's helped me become the person I am today.
So what's your vision for your business?
So for me, we're interested in just continuing to expand our influence in the DFW area. We want to, as I stated earlier, we're like a mobile chamber of commerce. We want businesses in the DFW area to look up and say, okay, Lean on Him Consulting is a hub of of education and business empowerment. And so that's something that we're very proud that we're on track to do.
Okay.
And we're thankful.
Okay. And when you work with businesses, do you help them kind of paint that picture, the 5-year vision of where they want to be?
Yeah, we usually start at 12 months and then 5 years to 10 years.
Okay.
And so we try to help them understand that everything you do, you got to start with what do you want out of this, and then work backwards. Because if you just implement things and you don't know the outcome you're looking for, then, you know, something will happen. You won't necessarily know that that's what the outcome would be. And so, yeah, we try to create a good, clear roadmap for them.
Okay. So this is the end of the year for us. So we're starting 2020. In our month of January, our theme is visioning and goal setting. And so we're leading up to that. We're going to have some great dynamic speakers throughout the year. Throughout the year after that, we talk about preparing for college, you know, managing your credit, entrepreneurship, home purchase, physical fitness. So there's a whole list out there. So go to our website and check it out.
That's right.
But as we wrap this up, I want you to share some what are your closing remarks to people who are out there with an idea at different levels trying to make it work? I asked a lot of the guests to give their words of encouragement to, you know, budding entrepreneurs who are out there or young people who are starting. What would be your advice to them?
You know, I would say, you know, to the entrepreneur who is just getting started and you're doing all that research and you're in what I call paralysis of analysis, keep researching. You know, and to the entrepreneur who's highly gifted and you don't know exactly what you should do first, but you know you want to do a lot of things, I would say don't feel ashamed of your giftedness and the fact that you have a lot of skills. You have every right to have those skills. What I would say is take the time out to connect with someone, even if it's not myself, to determine what should be allocated first. to the entrepreneur who has been in business for a little while, and you say, you know what, man, at first, my business was doing well, but now it's not doing so well. Do I really deserve to be in business? Of course you do. You're amazing. You're amazing because you decided to go in business. That is a courageous decision. You're doing what corporations do on a day-to-day basis. They have to make the plans. You're the janitor. You're the marketer. You're the everything. And so for that reason alone, you're amazing. And I say you continue to move forward, recalibrate, reflect, reassess, and execute, and you will figure it out. Only thing we do is we try to accelerate that process. That's all we try to do. Is most entrepreneurs, they figure it out because they're going to put in the work. They have to. We're hunter-gatherers. If we don't go out and conquer it, we don't eat. And so what we try to do as a company is say, you know what? You can chop down a tree with a hammer, but it'll take you 30 days. But if you use a chainsaw, it'll take you 3 minutes.
Yeah.
We try to be the chainsaw for the entrepreneurs who already are working hard, who are already putting in their blood, sweat, and tears. And we just want to be that support to maximize their time as a professional.
Okay, so one of the things that I do when I get speakers, I want them to share their personal story, how they've overcome some type of adversity to achieve their goal. Because they look at you, you're a successful business owner for 14 years, and they don't see your struggle, right?
Oh man!
And I know from talking to a number of speakers, there was a lady who started Lifeology. She started a counseling service when she just got divorced, had $7 in her pocket, and just signed up for this lease, had no money. Or I know of a person who started a personnel company, and he started in 2009, and who was hiring in 2009, right?
Oh yeah, I know, right?
So we see people who are successful, but then, and even, at one point I'll have the owner of AE Media Group share his story because, he has a nice studio, he's doing very well, but success is never a straight line.
No,
you have ups and downs. So what have you gone through that kind of tested you to really believe in your vision regardless of the current circumstances to keep going?
It's something that that started very early on, even as a child. One thing that I realized is that the scars you experience in your life, they're meant to sometimes they end up being the very area you decide to serve in. And so I think that's kind of what happened for me is that, I grew up in a non-traditional home where I never met my father. I mean, to this day, if he walked by, I wouldn't even know it. And so that was very challenging for me growing up and being the oldest of 5. So now I'm not only, I don't have a visual guide to monitor and figure out a template to follow. I've got 4 other siblings that are putting that pressure on me, whether they intend to or not. And so it was very challenging to walk around in that journey, and every decision that I make, it's amplified. And so I never wanted that for anybody because I saw how difficult that was. And so inadvertently, that's how I am in my business. If you don't know something, I'm extremely interested in making sure you don't walk through that darkness, whether it's entrepreneurial or personal. And through the years, I've had times where I've worked jobs and, they called everybody in the room. When I see the HR director, because one of my jobs, I happened to be friends with the HR director, and he was a client. That probably shouldn't have been the case, but hey.
Right.
Hey. So laid off everybody. But here's what I was thankful for. When I called my wife after it happened, I said, hey, babe, they laid everybody off. And I think she may have been in the middle of just watching TV or cleaning up, and she responded very casually. And I was very thankful for that as a man because she knew that I was going to put in the work to make something happen.
Yeah.
So that was while I was doing my business part-time and on and off. As an entrepreneur, you're going to have that happen. But that passion of what I experienced when I was younger, in addition to all the ups and downs, that was the fuel that helped me to be where I am today.
So it's like sometimes your setbacks are, they definitely set you up for a comeback, but they give you the strength to work through something that's going to happen to you in the future.
That's right.
Well, man, I really appreciate your time. I know my time is up right now, but I want you, so if someone's getting in touch with you, the offer again, your number, and what's the deal if they want to meet with you for that cousin discount?
So for the first cousin discount, going once, going twice sold, you just shoot me a text message, 214-532-9972. We normally charge $450 an hour for our business consulting and strategy sessions. We'll do it for $25. You can hold me to that. Whenever you see me, if you reference that you heard me or saw me or whatever the case may be, I'll honor that for you. And also, if you have never had a professional photo shoot done, we are willing to invest in providing a professional photo shoot. That's one of the things that most clients do not realize they need. But if you're going to be in my magazine, if we're going to do business and you're going to incorporate your photo, you want a good-looking photo, and it won't just be a headshot. It'll be a full.
Won't be a selfie.
Yeah. We won't do those. If you go to our website and complete our questionnaire, we'll see if you qualify. Go to www.LOHCgrow.com, complete the questionnaire, and I'll have my team look at it, and we'll give you an opportunity to win one. We normally charge $2,400 for that. It comes with a lot of different stuff. You can see the details on the website, but we'll do that. We'll honor that for you guys, for you listeners today. So thank you very much.
Winning mean like they win? They don't need to pay anything for that?
It'll be a complimentary photo shoot.
What? So, okay. What's the website? Like, do I qualify?
Yeah, if you go in anonymously.
Look, y'all, don't pass this up. I'm telling you, because you charge for that, right? It was $2,400 or something like that?
Yeah, we normally charge $20. There's a lot of things that we do with that photo shoot.
Look, so you talk about connection to resources. You got a resource here where if you're going to be out there marketing yourself, or you're a speaker, you say you want to write a book, but you ain't got a picture of yourself, you should not turn this down. So I want to thank you, man, for offering that. So that's definitely a blessing. Thank you for providing that resource. Thank you for spending the hour with us and your patience. Connect with us on our website, www.empowerseries.com. You can look to see about our future upcoming events. We've got a podcast over the next 2 weeks. Then we're taking a break off for Christmas, and then we're hitting the ground running with 2020. So if you're not connected on us, go to our website and give us your name and email address. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't let this be the last time we talk. Share this with someone else, because the only way someone's going to find out about the Empower Series is if you share it. So until we meet again, I want you to be empowered and inspired to thrive. So thank you. And thanks, man.
Appreciate it.